There's something people don't tell you. Pain has a way of teaching us things we wouldn't learn any other way. It hurts, yes. It shakes everything inside. But sometimes it's the only thing that gets us to stop and finally look at what we've been ignoring. You don't need to understand everything right now. You don't even need to stop what you're doing. You can just listen while you walk, work, clean the house. This is a conversation for your heart, not for your to-do list. Because maybe the pain you're feeling isn't just here to make you suffer. Maybe it's showing you what needs to change. And if you permit it can leave you with something real, something that stays, even after the pain goes away. So take a breath. Stay with me. This might be the reminder you didn't know you needed. And if this speaks to you, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. It helps this message reach someone else who might be needing it too. There are things we only notice when they start to hurt. And it's not because they appeared out of nowhere. It's because we've been ignoring them. Pain is like a fire alarm going off in the middle of a silent room. It forces us to stop and look around. Suddenly, the cracks we've been pretending not to see are impossible to ignore. That job that drains you, that relationship built on silence, that smile you've been faking for months. Pain doesn't create these truths. It reveals them. And once they're exposed, you can't unsee them. Think about it. How many times have you said, "I'm fine," when deep down you were barely holding on? Pain has this way of ripping the mask right off your face. It exposes the tiredness behind your strength, the fear behind your independence, the sadness behind your jokes. And in that moment, there's nowhere left to hide. It's uncomfortable, even frightening, but it's also honest. You start to realize just how long you've been disconnected from yourself. Pain opens a door you didn't even know was locked. And here's the strange gift. Once the truth is out, you get to choose what to do with it. You can keep pretending, or you can face it. Some start journaling, others seek therapy. Some move across the world. Some just finally take a deep breath. It doesn't have to be dramatic, but it does have to be real. Because once pain reveals what was hidden, there's no going back to the lie. And maybe, just maybe, that's where a different kind of healing quietly begins to unfold. We live on autopilot. Wake up, work, scroll, repeat. There's barely a pause between one thing and the next. But pain is not subtle. It comes like a hand slamming the emergency brake. Suddenly, everything stops. You can't ignore your body. You can't ignore your emotions. You can't keep pretending you're okay. And in that pause, forced, uncomfortable, and raw, you're invited to listen. Not to the noise of the world, but to something quieter, deeper, your own soul. That voice inside you has been whispering for a long time. But you were too busy, too distracted, too tired. Pain turns up the volume. It says, look at yourself. And not just the version you show to the world, but the version you've been hiding from. Some people describe this as a moment of breakdown. Others call it awakening. Either way, it's real. And often it's the only thing powerful enough to make us stop running from ourselves. If you're in that moment right now, where everything feels heavy and loud, try something simple. Sit still for 5 minutes. No music, no phone. Just your breath. Just you. Ask, what am I feeling? And wait. The answer might not come fast, but it's there. Under the chaos, beneath the pain, something inside you is waiting to be heard. And once you begin to listen, you'll start to see that pain isn't just a warning, it's a guide, gently pointing you to what matters most. Pain doesn't just arrive to make you suffer, it comes to clean house. It strips away the layers you thought were essential. The job title, the approval, the busyness, the distractions. And what's left? What actually matters? Who stays? What gives you peace? Pain has a brutal way of simplifying your world. And in that simplicity, you begin to see clearly. The people who truly care, the values you had buried, the dreams you once forgot. What's real becomes obvious when everything else falls apart. At first, it feels like loss. You might think you're being emptied, but something sacred happens when you're no longer carrying what was weighing you down. You don't need 100 plans or 10 backup options. You need truth. You need presence. You need the few things that nourish your soul instead of draining it. And that's what pain does. It helps you distinguish between what is loud and what is meaningful, what you thought you needed, and what you actually can't live without. If you're feeling overwhelmed, try this. Write down everything that feels like too much right now. And then ask yourself, which of these are truly mine to carry? What can I let go of, physically, emotionally, or mentally? You don't need to do it all today, but noticing is the first shift. Because once pain removes the noise, something pure begins to emerge. And in that clarity, another lesson starts to rise, one that will quietly challenge your ability to let go. Letting go isn't always a brave decision, it's often a painful necessity. Pain has a way of shining a light on what's been hurting you in silence. Relationships that drain you, habits that numb you, beliefs that limit you. You might cling to them because they're familiar, because they once brought comfort. But pain whispers, and sometimes screams, that it's time to release. And while that release may feel like loss, it's actually space being made for something more aligned with who you're becoming. This kind of letting go doesn't happen all at once. It unfolds slowly. It might be the moment you stop responding to someone who always leaves you feeling small, or the day you cancel plans just to rest, or when you finally admit that the version of success you're chasing isn't yours. These aren't dramatic acts, they're quiet revolutions, and they're brave, because choosing to let go isn't about giving up. It's about not abandoning yourself anymore. If you want to make it practical, start here. Write a list of things, people, or thoughts that leave you feeling empty. Now ask, what would it feel like to loosen your grip on just one of them? You don't have to cut ties overnight, but the moment you give yourself permission to let go, you begin to reclaim your energy. And in that space, something surprising begins to grow, a deeper presence, one that pain has been guiding you toward all along. When everything hurts, the only place left to be is here, not in yesterday's regrets, not in tomorrow's worries, just here. Pain pulls you out of the future you can't control and the past you can't change. It anchors you. And in that anchoring, you begin to notice the small things, the warmth of a cup in your hands, the sound of your breath, the way your body feels when you stop rushing. Pain doesn't demand action, it invites awareness. Many people discover mindfulness through suffering, not because it's trendy, but because it becomes necessary. When the heart aches and the mind races, presence becomes the only place that feels safe. Some people find it through meditation, others through long walks, others simply by sitting with their emotions without running away. And something incredible happens when you stay. The moment stops being your enemy. It becomes your teacher. And from that teacher, clarity begins to rise. Want to bring more presence into your life? Start small. Try noticing 3 things right now. 1 sound, 1 sensation, 1 thing you can see. That's it. Do it again tomorrow, and again the next day. Over time, this practice turns into a habit, and that habit becomes a refuge. Because when pain tries to pull you under, presence is what helps you breathe. And the more present you become, the more you'll uncover a strength inside you that's been waiting to be seen. You never really know how strong you are until being strong is the only option left. When pain knocks you down, it's not always about standing up quickly. It's about realizing that you can. Even with the tears, even with the fear, even when you're exhausted, you keep going. And that quiet, invisible strength, that's resilience. It's not loud. It doesn't ask for applause. But it's what gets you through the nights when nobody's watching. It's easy to admire strength in others. But when you're the one in it, when you're holding yourself together while everything inside feels like it's falling apart, it's hard to recognize just how powerful you are. Think back. How many times did you think, I can't take this? And yet, you did? Maybe you didn't rise like a hero. Maybe you just got through the day. But that counts. That matters. Because real strength isn't about never breaking. It's about continuing, even in pieces. Here's a practice. Write down one moment in your life when you survived something you thought would destroy you. Keep it close. Read it when you doubt yourself. That moment is proof. You didn't ask for the pain, but you faced it. And now you're still here. Stronger, wiser, maybe not healed, but growing. And that growth, it begins to change everything inside you, whether you notice or not. In fact, it starts to shift the very foundation of how you see life and what truly matters. Pain doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you see. The things you used to chase might not matter anymore. The people you tried so hard to please might lose their grip on you. Your values shift, your priorities realign. What once felt urgent now feels irrelevant. And what you once ignored starts calling your attention. Pain forces a reorganization inside you, whether you want it or not. And in that process, you begin to meet a new version of yourself, one that sees life through different eyes. It's like an internal earthquake. What felt stable suddenly collapses, and you're left sorting through the pieces. But here's the secret. You don't have to rebuild it the same way. In fact, you shouldn't. Many people, after a painful chapter, find themselves drawn to different things. Quieter spaces, deeper relationships, more honest ways of living. They stop performing. They stop pretending. And for the first time in a long time, they start telling the truth about who they are and what they need. If you're in that shaking phase right now, don't rush to rebuild. Let things move. Let your heart show you what still fits and what never really did. Journal about the values that feel real to you today, not last year. Reflect on what you want to carry forward and what you're finally ready to leave behind. Because pain, as harsh as it is, isn't here to punish you. It's here to make room. And in that room, something unexpected starts to open. A softness, a humility, and maybe a new kind of connection. And there's something about deep pain that humbles you, and that voice inside that said, I can handle it all, starts to crack. And suddenly, you don't want to do everything alone anymore. You stop pretending to be strong all the time. You stop holding back your tears. And instead of pushing people away, you start to wonder, what if I actually let someone in? Pain breaks down the walls we built to look powerful. And in that brokenness, space opens for something real, connection. It's often in the lowest moments that we realize how much we need each other. Not in a desperate way, but in a human way. We realize that asking for help is not weakness, it's courage. That vulnerability isn't embarrassing, it's freeing. Whether it's a friend who listens without fixing, or a stranger who offers a kind word when we need it most, connection becomes medicine. And once you experience that kind of support, you stop believing the lie that you have to carry it all alone. If you're used to doing everything on your own, try something simple. Reach out to one person you trust and share something honest. Not dramatic, just real. You'll be surprised how people respond when you drop the act. Pain can make you feel isolated, but it also has the power to soften you. And in that softness, new bridges are built. Not just to others, but also back to yourself. And from that place of openness, something deeper begins to awaken, something that reshapes how you see the world and those who suffer in it. Before pain, empathy is just a concept, something you nod to, maybe feel briefly, but not fully understand. But once you've been through the fire, something changes. You stop looking at other people's struggles with judgment. You stop saying things like, just get over it, or it could be worse. Because now you know how heavy it feels when no one understands you. You've lived the silence. You've worn the smile that hides the storm. And suddenly, your heart opens in a way it never has before. You begin to notice pain in places you overlooked before. In a tired cashier, a friend who's been distant, a stranger on the bus with red eyes. And your response isn't to fix them, it's to see them, to sit with them if they need company. To say, I get it, instead of, here's what you should do. Real empathy isn't loud. It doesn't rush. It listens. It understands that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is your presence, not your opinion. If you want to cultivate this kind of empathy, reflect on your own hardest moments. Ask yourself, how did I want to be treated when I was in pain? What words would have helped me feel less alone? Now offer those same things to others. Maybe through a message, maybe through a quiet moment of kindness. Pain isn't just a personal journey, it can be the very thing that connects us to each other. And as you begin to live from that place of understanding, you might start to notice that the people who matter most begin to draw even closer. Pain has a way of stripping away illusions, not just about yourself, but about others too. When everything falls apart, you start to see who's really there. Not the ones who only show up in your victories, but the ones who stay in your silence. The ones who check in, even when you have nothing to offer. The ones who don't try to fix you, but simply sit with you. Pain reveals what applause can't, the depth of real connection. And sometimes, that's when love shows itself most clearly. It's also the moment when masks fall. People you thought would never leave disappear. Others you barely noticed suddenly become your anchor. It can feel both heartbreaking and healing at the same time. But what remains after the storm is honest, pure, real. You begin to understand that quality matters more than quantity, and that one sincere presence in your life is more valuable than 100 empty ones. Pain helps you see love not in words, but in actions. If you're in pain now, take a moment to notice who's quietly showing up, who makes space for your truth, who loves you when you're not performing. These are the relationships worth nurturing. Send them a message, thank them, hold them close. Because sometimes pain doesn't just take things away, it also gives. It reveals the gold beneath the rubble. And once you see who really matters, it becomes a little easier to silence the world outside and hear something much more important starting to rise within. When pain hits, the world around you starts to fade. The noise, the distractions, the endless scrolling, they all lose their grip. What once felt important suddenly becomes background static. And in the quiet that remains, something unexpected happens. Your inner voice gets louder, the one you've been ignoring, the one buried beneath other people's expectations. Pain doesn't just mute the outside world, it clears a path to the part of you that still remembers who you are. At first, this silence can feel uncomfortable, even frightening. You might find yourself avoiding it, filling your time, seeking escape. But if you can sit with it, even briefly, you'll start to hear something deeper. Truths you've been pushing aside, feelings you've been avoiding. And strangely, it's not always bad. Sometimes, the silence reveals your most honest desires, your buried dreams, or even the next step you've been afraid to take. Pain doesn't just bring discomfort, it brings clarity if you let it. Want to explore this space? Try setting aside 10 minutes a day with no distractions, just you and your thoughts. Ask yourself gently, what part of me have I been ignoring? You don't need all the answers. Just be willing to listen. Your inner voice might speak in whispers, but it carries wisdom no one else can give you. And the more you tune in, the more you'll realize that pain wasn't just a breakdown. It was a turning point, preparing the ground for something new to grow. Before something new begins, something old usually has to fall apart. That's the hidden rhythm of life. Just like the earth cracks before a seed breaks through, your inner world often has to rupture before something meaningful can emerge. Pain feels like destruction, but it's often preparation. It shakes you loose from patterns that no longer serve you. It disrupts who you thought you were so that who you really are can start to take shape. And though the process hurts, it opens the door to something profoundly alive. People talk about starting over as if it's a choice. But sometimes it's survival. You don't decide to be reborn, you're pushed. And when it happens, the pieces don't come back together the same way. They're rearranged with intention. You start saying no to what drains you. You start prioritizing peace over approval. You no longer crave what once distracted you. You crave what grounds you. This is the silent work of pain, not just healing you, but rebuilding you. If you're in that crumbling phase now, try to remember. The fact that everything feels unfamiliar doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're being reformed. Write down what feels like it's ending. Then write what you hope could grow from it, even if it's just one word. This small act helps you trust the process. Because after the pain softens, something else starts to rise. Your roots, your voice, your life, this time more aligned, more conscious, and more yours than ever before. Pain always feels permanent when you're in it. You wonder if it'll ever stop, if you'll ever breathe normally again, if your heart will ever feel light. But here's the quiet truth. All pain has an end. It may take longer than you expect. It may change you in the process, but it will pass. And when it does, something remarkable can happen, if you're willing. You'll find that pain didn't just leave scars, it left wisdom. It taught you what no easy moment ever could. But here's the catch. You only receive the gift if you stop fighting the lesson, if you stop numbing, avoiding, denying. Because the transformation is hidden in the feeling, in allowing the discomfort, in facing what broke you and asking, what can I learn from this? That's when pain stops being just a wound and becomes a doorway, a turning point, a quiet teacher that, although harsh, offered you something lasting. Awareness, depth, truth, courage. Take a moment to ask yourself, what has pain taught you? What strength did you find? What clarity did it bring? Maybe you're still in it, and that's okay. Just know that it won't last forever. And when it does end, you don't have to be the same. You can be wiser, softer, more grounded, more you, because the end of pain isn't just relief, it's the beginning of a new chapter, one where the most important lessons stay with you and quietly guide you forward. You didn't choose this pain. But now that it's here, what are you going to do with it? You can keep running from it, or you can listen. You can resist the lesson, or you can grow. Because every pain you've been through carries something deeper than just suffering. It holds clarity, strength, wisdom, and you get to decide whether this chapter ends in bitterness or in transformation. So I'll ask you this. What has your pain been trying to teach you right now in this exact season of your life? And more importantly, what will you do with that lesson? If this conversation spoke to something inside you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications, and share this with someone who needs it. We're building a space for reflection, healing, and truth. You don't have to go through this alone. And sometimes, all it takes is a single message like this to begin again.